Hello, my name is Saul Castillo. I'm the team lead for the AWS Frontier team, an AWS to Nextcloud monitoring platform. And this is our Capstone 2 project, and I will be showing you how that you can install this application onto Nextcloud, and showing you where you can find the tutorial to install the actual Nextcloud application onto your desktop. So, firstly, we'll start off with Nextcloud itself. So, depending on what you choose, for us personally, we did the environment on Windows. So, for Nextcloud itself to set up the entire work environment, you would have to follow this tutorial right here, which Nextcloud already has set up for you. If I were to include this, the video would be rather lengthy, and luckily the entire setup is pretty straightforward. But what this will do is that it'll get you set up with the Docker environment if you're choosing Windows with Ubuntu, and then it'll install the actual Nextcloud application onto that instance of Ubuntu. So moving on from this, once all of this is completed, and you have the installation open, you can head on over to your apps extra folder, which is located within the Linux distribution under Ubuntu, home, your username, Nextcloud Docker Dev Workspace Server, and then apps extra. So in our final deliverable under code, you'll find the cat gives folder. This is the actual code for the application. The reason it's named cat gives is because that's kind of an artifact from when we installed an original template to work on the project. But even then, it'll work just fine and it'll appear as AWS Frontier or just Frontier within Nextcloud. So you would drag and drop the entire cat gives folder within apps extra, and then you would head on over to your actual Nextcloud application. Here, I'll go from the beginning. So at first, it'll ask you to log in. The password should just be admin admin if you had followed the tutorial correctly. So from here, all you have to do is go over here to your profile picture, then you hit apps, and then for you, it would appear something like this. Once you drag and drop the CatGIFs folder, it would appear like this, Frontier, and then it would either say remove or enable. So to activate the application, you just hit enable. Oh, yeah, let's refresh. And there it is. Now it's enabled. So you can verify it's enabled because up here you'll see the little AWS Frontier logo with the Frontier on it. So once you click on that, you can open this up, and here you can start using the application right away. For the application, there's not really much to the application itself in terms of usage. It's more setup is needed with the access key and the secret key for the AWS API, so it can pull information from AWS onto Nextcloud, and you can see all these statistics and all these lists. But at face value, there's not much else that has to be done with the Nextcloud and local side um, of the installation. So next, I'll hand it off to one of our teammates, to George, that he made an AWS user manual so that you can retrieve your access keys and set up your permissions so that you can see uh, all of these features. So thank you very much, and I'll hand it off to him.
Hi, my name is George Marrero, and today I will be going through how to create your AWS account and what you will need to do inside your AWS account in order to make sure that your account is compatible with AWS Frontier. The first thing you guys will do is you will meet up with your group to create a group email address. This email address will be used to create your AWS account. This AWS account will be shared with the group throughout the semester, as you will need to use it to be able to spin up resources, adjust permission policies, and do anything you want on the AWS for the application. So for example, I'm gonna log into our account this semester. Once you open up the account and log in, you will be sent to the management console. Here, as you can see, my management console is full of different resources that I've visited and some that I've even spun up as well. When you see yours will be empty because you have not spun up any resources yet. The first thing you will want to do is go to IAM, hover over, and click Users. From here, you will create a new user for your account. In this case, let's call it Test User. You have to click Next. If you had a permission group, which you probably don't at this point, don't worry about that, but if you did, you can add it. Click Next, Create User. Now, once you have created this user, this is the user that you will use throughout the application that will have all the permissions to be able to retrieve certain resources that you spin up on this account. This is very important because this user needs to have all the different permissions to be able to retrieve these resources. Without these permissions, you will get an error every time you try to receive the resources, as the API will not have access to be able to get these resources from your account. So to create these resources and these policies and make sure that you don't have this issue, you will click on Test User or whatever your username would be, and you would go to Permissions Policy here and create Inline Policy. Here you could create a policy for any resource. In this case, it could be S3, EC2, RDS, whatever. Here we're going to look for S3 first. Now for S3 buckets, all we really want is to be able to list and read the buckets. So we can go here, list and read, click on list bucket, and get, let's say, get object here. That's all we need to do for this, or you can, to be safer, you can select all S3 actions to make sure that you don't miss any permissions. Next, we would click on all and click next. Then you give a policy name. So here we're going to give S3 bucket access. And here we're going to see that it says limited to read and list, which is exactly what we need. All we want to do is list all the S3 buckets in the account and have no further actions be able to done to that S3 bucket. You want to create policy. Now once you create policy, you'll see that this policy has been added to this user, and now you will be able to read and list S3 buckets without fail. The next thing, and one of the most important things that you will have to do, is creating this access key. The access key and the secret key will also be created once you create the access key. The access key and secret key are used when you load up the application, when you have to input your access key and secret key in order to be able to get access to your AWS account and retrieve all of the information. Without your access key and secret key, the application will not be able to read your AWS account and get the resources that you would want. So to create an access key, you hover over you click your user, and you come here to the right and click Create Access Key. Once you get to this page, you will then click Application Running Outside AWS, because that is what AWS Frontier is. Click Next and give it a purpose, a description tag value. So this would be something like application. Create access key. Now here, you you will always be able to see your access key. However, you will not always be able to see your secret access key. In this case, you want to make sure that you store this secret access key somewhere safe and private where it's not accessible by the public. Make sure that you keep the access key and the secret access key stored in a place that you can always retrieve it in order for you to input these keys at the time of launching the application. And you click Done, Continue, and now you see that the access key is shown. However, the secret access key is no longer here. Now I'm going to give you guys an example of what our current user for the application looks like. It's called API, and here we have all of the different policies to give permissions for all the resources. So for example, we have SQS, Lambda, EC2, and CloudTrail S3. Any resource that you would want, you would add the permissions here, and then the AWS API would be able to communicate with AWS and actually retrieve those resources for you. So yeah, that's all in all what you need to do to make sure that your AWS account is compatible with our AWS Frontier application. From here, this is only subject to what we had done. However, you guys can add as much more as you would want, and